let me introduce you to Mavis Studio, a powerful live production system for iPad. Before we get into the detail, let me just give you a quick overview of what you can expect. So this is the Mavis Studio interface. And don't worry if you've never done live before, we'll break it down. But if you have done live, this should look fairly familiar. We've got a multi-view area here, and then we have a number of sources. Now, if you haven't done live before, then what these are the sources that you can cut to when you're making your show. So I've got some cameras here and some graphics, and you can just choose which one you want to use. Then up in this corner here, I've set this to be my program out monitor. That is the monitor that if you go and watch the stream somewhere, you will see exactly what is in that monitor. So what you do is, let's say we're filming this band, let's say we're coming up to the end of the guitar solo and we want to cut to our lead singer there on camera 3, we just tap on camera 3. And then maybe the band has a bit of a break, so we're going to tap on the back soon graphic there and we cut to back soon. And the reason we can do that is because we're cutting program, and we can cut program because we've got these little hot corners around that big program monitor. Now, you don't have to do that. You might want to cut preview. And the way we do that is we can tap the preview monitor. That's the one next to program in this case. If we tap it, we now move those hot corners. As you can see, they're now on preview. So now when I tap a camera, I will change preview. So preview is currently on the drummer, but let's say we want camera 4 because we're going to come back after the break. So we're going to tap camera 4. Now that hasn't gone out yet. The thing that's going out is still saying back soon. But what I can now do is use the mix effects panel down here to either take it with a cut, or I can use a transition. In this case, I'm going to use a mix, and then hopefully the camera operator can pull focus or something after we've done it. So we tap mix, that does the mix. That's now live, and now we can ask our camera operator to pull focus, and it will look like it was all planned. Right, that's a quick overview. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at how we can get to this stage, how we can bring in sources, how we can bring in graphics, how we can do sound, and then how we can stream it all out to somewhere so people can watch it. So first things first, when you open the app, you get the document view, and you can create a new document, or a show as we call it. And these show documents keep everything for your show in one place. All the videos, all the settings, all stored in that document. You can store it wherever you like. I actually store mine on iCloud because then it syncs across all my other iPads. So let's open the document, and then you're presented with a pretty empty looking multi-view. So the multi-view here sits around some other controls. So we've got at the bottom what we call the home panel, and then over at the side we've got a toolbar. The toolbar can control the way the home panel works. So I can tap on the audio button there and bring up some sound faders. Then there's another little button down there which allows me to expand that sound panel to give me more advanced controls. So let's have a look at how we can configure this multi-view and see what we can do. And by that, we're going to have a look at the anatomy of one of the little multi-view monitors, as we call them. I'm going to look at camera 1 here. And in camera 1, it shows me a couple of things. Firstly, I can see the video image. Now, this is a first-class video image. It's frame accurate. You're not going to sit and have a proxied thing that you cut to and get something slightly different. This is real-time video that you're going to look at and you can cut to and know that that's what's going to happen. Around the outside is a tally light. If it's red, your source is somewhere, somehow on program. It doesn't really matter how you've got there yet. It doesn't necessarily mean you've tapped it. You might be partway through a transition, or it might be in a layout or something, but somehow it's on program. Similarly, if it's green, somehow it's got on preview. The same technique is used. If you want to know that you've actually tapped that source and that is the source that's causing it all to happen, then we use the little label indicator down here. If you tap it and take it to program, you'll see that that label indicator also gets the red line around it to say you've pressed this one. Over on the side there, we get VU meters. If your source has sound, you'll get VU meters, and it'll show you the sound associated with it. We're not necessarily using that sound. It'll just show you that there is some sound associated with it. Now, let's try and set this up. The first thing we get, every multi-view monitor has a source input, source select button. So I can tap that and I can change and select whatever source I like from the entire video matrix. When you select a source, you also may get a button on the other side. Most sources have them, let's face it, which is the settings for that source. In this case, we're on a camera, so I get the settings for the camera. and you can then edit the settings that are in that multi-view. Now, you might notice it looks quite peppered with all these buttons. Well, you don't have to have those there while you're running your show. This is just here for setting up. And there's a little lock button down here. If you tap it, you can make all the buttons disappear. Now, in some cases, you might not want all of the buttons to disappear. So if you long press on the padlock there, you get a little menu and you can control which buttons you disappear when you hit that button. So it's all very configurable and nice for you to be able to set your show up how you want it, because this multi-view and the configuration of that multi-view is the user interface to your specific show. Okay, so we're going to have a look at how we're going to change some sources around now to do a little podcast. And what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to change out those image generator sources down the bottom there. So I'm going to tap on the source select button and I'm going to select a layout. So just tap on it and instantly that source has changed. I can do the same thing for the bars one, just tap on the bars and I'm going to bring down that to a color. Yeah, let's select color, tap that, and there we've gone. We've changed it. Now what we can do is fill up that multi-view to work in the way you want for your show. Don't worry about running out. We have a second set of multi-views there. You can just bank to those second set and you can have a totally different setup. Now this is really useful actually, because part of your show, you might actually have a totally different setup and you just want to run the second bank of multi-views at that point. Doesn't matter, you can use it however you like. Right, let's now bring in some cameras. Tap on that settings button up there and now we can open the menu. And actually what you'll see is 3 different ways to bring in a camera. Depends on what camera you want to use and what technology you want to use, but we have 3 there. I'm going to start in the middle, why not? So this is the Mavis Cloud Hub, and Mavis Cloud Hub is an online cloud-based orchestration system. What it does is it helps devices find each other around the world. So this is a very useful way to bring in devices. If I tap on this, it will find all the devices that I've already linked to my account, and all I have to do is tap one of them. And if it's on, it'll appear in my multi-view. Really easy. Now, how do we get there? Well, first of all, we're using an app called Mavis Camera. This is a companion app for Mavis Studio, and it's available on the App Store. Just search Mavis Camera and it's a free download. And then what you want to do is you want to tap this icon up here, which enters a menu which allows you to select studio mode. Now, if you haven't already logged in, it'll ask you to log in or create an account. And if you do that with the same account that you do with Studio, it's all free, then you will be able to find those devices instantly. And what it does is it doesn't matter where your device is in the world. You could have your iPad here and your cameras, your phones in the center of town or the other side of the planet. And providing they've got an internet connection, the cloud system will work out where they are and build a peer-to-peer connection between the camera and the studio. It doesn't go through the cloud necessarily, I mean, unless there's a problem with the network, but for the most cases, it's a peer-to-peer connection directly from your phone into Studio. So it doesn't matter whether you're on a very local network or whether you're across the world, it should just work. But I can understand a lot of people don't want to log in. So if you don't want to log in or you don't want to use devices that are on your account, there's another way. What you can do is you can use the Find Nearby devices. Now, in this case, you tap it and it'll find devices that are physically located near the iPad. It's actually using the same technology as AirDrop. So if you know you can AirDrop files between a couple of people because you brought the devices near, you can do a similar thing. You don't have to have the cameras near the whole time, it's just there to discover it. So for example, Mo has brought a phone next to the iPad. I don't want Mo's phone on my account, but it's been brought near to the iPad so I can just tap it and it will now run and come straight in to the multi-view. That has to be in Mavis Camera and it has to be running Mavis Studio before it will work. But when it does, nearby, we'll just pick it up. And now it will pick up the most appropriate network route to actually make that work. The final way of bringing in cameras depends on what kind of cameras you want to bring in. Now, let's say you don't want to use an iPhone camera. I mean, they're great, but you don't always want to use them. There are a couple of things you can do. You could get an adapter. So you can get an adapter from Atomos. There's an Atomos Ninja Phone or an Axoon Simo, and they allow you to bring in HDMI or even SDI cameras into Mavis Camera, which means you can still take advantage of the cloud orchestration system. So you can still have a really nice chunky camera somewhere else in the world and it can be brought into your show. That's great. But again, you don't have to use that. Another way you can do is using NDI. And NDI is an industry standard network way of getting stuff into networked based devices. NDI is quite ubiquitous with a lot of manufacturers, so you'll quite often find devices with NDI on it. And if I click find NDI, exactly the same way as you do find nearby devices, it will find devices on your local network. It does have to be local for this, and you can see a few devices there. I'm actually going to pick up an Atomos Shogun because that is the device that I've got connected to my camera and it's brought it straight in. I'm going to do the fourth camera in the same way. Now, I've got a number of cameras set up there for my podcast, and I can just cut around my cameras. I can check my shots are right before I even go on air and just go, yeah, they're all looking good. So I'm ready now to do the cameras for my podcast. Let's now bring in some other assets. I might want a title sequence. So I'm going to use a media player. And the media player allows you to play videos or still images. If you just want to play still images, we also have some still image players. They're a little bit less heavy on the system resources, so they're good for just stills and backgrounds of layouts and things like that. But we're going to use a media player because we're going to bring in some video. So you get the media panel pop over, but this isn't populated at the moment. So let's just populate it with some stuff. I'm just going to go and import, and I can pick up files that I can access from my iPad. So things on iCloud, things located on the iPad, or things maybe on Dropbox if you've got that connected to your iPad account. And then what I can do is just bring those files in, and they will be now downloaded into your show document. And this is very important because now your show document contains those assets and they're ready to run the minute you need them. So I can select any asset and it will immediately change the asset in the player. It doesn't have to download it, doesn't have to find it. It's there ready to go. Now there's a switch down the bottom here that allows you to automatically play your media when it appears on program. So if you cut to it and it appears on program, then it will start playing. You don't have to cut to it directly. It could be in a picture-in-picture, or you could be doing a mix to it or something like that. Whenever it appears on program, like the tally light appears, it will start playing that video. Right, let's have a look at the multi-view monitor for a second when you've got a video in there, because it gives you a little bit of extra information. There's got a little bit of time code there, and what that does is tell you how long's left on the video. So it tells you the countdown time, because it's quite interesting to know once you've hit start how long you've got left on the video. But it's also got a little indicator to show you how far you're through the video. So this is a really nice way of just seeing what's happening, seeing that it is a video, it's available to run, and that's how long you've got left on it. You can control the video using the wheel at the bottom. There's a play button that you can play and pause, and also you can wind it backwards and forwards with your finger there, and that will give you very precise control over where you want to start your video from. The final source that I want to look at today is bringing in HTML web graphics. If I tap on the graphics icon here, I can then bring in a URL. So I can just tap on that and I can basically bring in any web page. Now there is a bit of a constraint on this. Apple and iOS don't allow you to show videos in these web pages. There's nothing we can do about that. Also, if it's very, very heavy on the JavaScript, it could take up a lot of system resources. So just be a little bit mindful of that. But you can pretty much use anything, like most stuff works really well. And I'm just going to use this here, which is graphics.mavis.cloud. And this is a little test site that we've set up to give you a little bit of a lower third. You can go there and try it yourself if you don't have anything. There are loads of things out there that do this for you. So there's loads of graphics packages and things you can use, but this is just a test one that you can have a go with. Once you've loaded it in, you can cut to it, and there it is, front and center. Your graphics are going out. Now, you can use anything for this. You could use AI to knock you something up. Actually, I did see somebody once knocked up a heart monitor because they were following some athletes. This was very nice. You could run it in real time, live data coming in, presented on the screen. But right now, we've just cut to this directly, and you might not want to just show the web page. And actually, this particular web page has a very special thing because the background is actually transparent. So we can use it to overlay on top of our video signal. So the way that we do that is, let's cut back to a camera, and now we're going to hit the graphics button. You might also know this as the DSK button. Tap that button there, and it will superimpose the graphics on the top of the camera feed or whatever is in program. So that's nice. Okay, once you've got your graphics in, you can actually manipulate the web page in a couple of ways. First of all, there's quick access to allow you to put some keystrokes in. There's enter, tab, things like that. You can also use the cursor keys. This is particularly useful if you're using something like Google Slides and you want to actually interact with the presentation. There's also the ability to open that web page in a view and interact with it live while it's on air if you want to. So that's also very useful. Right, that's sources, that's video. Let's have a look at sound. And just want to point out here, there is a small sound panel on the home screen. Now, just bear in mind how this is laid out. You've got a couple of lines of groups. There's 3 groups at the top, 3 groups at the bottom there. This is important, and we'll come to that in about 10 seconds from now. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to our tool panel and we are going to enter into the sound mode. And up here, you'll see that set of groups again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 2 rows. This is going to be quite important, but we're going to come on to that in a moment. If you can't see that, by the way, don't forget there is the little button there that will open that sound panel into the advanced mode. Okay, so let's have a look at how our sound panel comes in and what we get by default. Well, each camera delivers in 2 channels. These are 2 mono channels. You can use it as a stereo pair if you like, but they come in mono because they might not be stereo. You might just, like in our podcast, we've just got 2 microphones. We don't want those panned hard left and right, for example. Each camera brings in 2 channels, and we also have 2 channels from each media player. Then at the end, we have 1 master fader. So you can turn all your sound off, or you can adjust the gain of your entire mix very easily. Let's have a look at what each channel strip gets. Well, you get a fader. You just turn the gain up and down. You get an on and off button. When your channel is off, you've effectively muted it, and then you can bring it on very easily. We also have a PFL button, pre-fade listen. If you tap that button, you're listening to the channel as if you have faded the fader up, but the fader can be down. So you're listening to it before you faded it, pre-fade, right? However, it overrides the sound you're listening to on your iPad. So you don't want to turn that on and think, oh, this is very nice. It's the microphone I want to hear, because nobody will hear that necessarily. That's for you to give a private preview of your mic. So to make sure it goes out, you have to raise the fader. Then we get a little indicator. Each one of these gets an indicator. It's very interesting to see what this does. Let's just expand it a bit. First of all, you can see what the pan is doing. So you can see how you've panned your signal left or right, and you can just get an overview of all your channels like that. And also we can get the ability to turn these groups on and off. And you can see as you turn on different groups, they appear in that little section. So you can see at a moment's glance what groups are selected. Why? What are these groups all about? Good question. The groups, you might know them as VCAs or DCAs, or in some mixers, they're called mute groups. They allow you to remote control faders. Let me show you a little bit how it works. So here's one fader, and inside the fader is a cheeky little virtual fader. And we can wire that up to a controller, say for example, the Group 1 gain controller. So that Group 1 gain controller, now if I adjust the Group 1, it's going to now adjust the gain of my fader inside my channel strip. Now this is actually after my main fader. So I set the fader and then the signal goes through the main fader and then it goes through the second fader. Don't worry, it's all digital, there's no loss of signal, but it means you can change the gain via that fader. This is particularly useful if you have more than one channel. So let's try 3 here for a moment. You can see there's 3 channels and they're all controlled by that Group 1 fader there. And all of them will come down at the same time and all of them will go up at the same time. But the mix that you had was actually very different. Look, each one is a slightly different level. So now when I bring them all down, all it's doing is turning down my mix proportionally. Yeah, I can go right to the bottom or I can go partially like that. You can actually control this by more than one knob. You can have 2 groups controlling it. That gets a little bit more complicated and the highest one wins effectively. And we'll maybe cover that in another video. But this is really important because you can control this from the home panel. Now let me show you how we set it up in defaults. So individual cameras come in with both of their faders in a group. So camera 1 has got both of its channels in Group 1. Camera 2 has both of its channels in Group 2. Same for 3, 4, and then the media players are all in Group 5. Now this means that if you look at the home panel, there we go, we've got the little sound panel there. If we look at that, we can now control individual sets of inputs. So I could say turn off all the camera 1 feeds or all the camera 2 feeds, or I could turn those feeds on and I could turn off all the media player feeds. Now this is very useful. You might be running a video, in which case you want to clear all the microphones that are in the studio. You want to close them off so you can't hear people chatting. But maybe you do. Maybe what you actually want is to have people to be able to voice over the video. So it's important to be able to make that mix on the fly. Now, one of the things I would always do, and actually what I'd do for a podcast, is I'd actually put all my mics just into one group, and then I'd have one group for the VT as well, if I needed it. Now, at the moment, what we've seen is how to turn it on and off. This is like bringing that group fader all the way down. But if you remember just a few seconds ago, we actually had a gain control on it. So if you want the gain controls, just tap on the little menu there and you can swap it out to gain controls. Then when you tap on the group, you've got that gain control there. And that's again very useful because you can set that gain and still the on and offs will bring it from completely off up to that gain level that you've just set. To be honest, I actually tend to run it in the mutes mode. I find it much more easier, but that's just how I tend to run it like this. Now, we also have on this panel the master audio. This is a complete mirror of the master audio fader. You have gain, so you can adjust the master gain, and you also have the master mute as well. So this is turning the channel on and off. So you can say mute the master, and now no sound is going out. And this is particularly useful if, say, you're starting a stream, you've got a holding graphic saying my stream is starting soon, and you don't want your sound to go out. Then at the beginning of your show, you just tap it and unmute it, and now your sound is going out. And you can always tell because it's red. If that is red, your sound is going out. Really good way to see what's going on. Right, that's inputs, that's video, that's audio. Let's have a look at what we do with our show now we've made it. So first thing we want to do is record it. So we can use this button, tap the record button and it will start recording. And it's going to put that locally on your device. What about streaming? We'll tap the streaming button. If we go into here, it will give us a menu. And if we haven't set it up yet, it'll allow us to edit our stream settings. You can also get this from the settings button. And we can go through the menus and we can see the kind of things you can set up. So I might want to go to YouTube, so I could check YouTube, but I might want to go somewhere custom or even SRT if I want to deliver it in that way. So I can check YouTube here, and then all I have to do is paste the stream key in from YouTube. I'm just going to get that and paste that in, or you can type it in if you really want to. And then you're ready to stream. If I hit the button, it will go red if the receiving server is receiving your stream. So if it doesn't go red, or if it goes red and then goes grey again, it means something's gone wrong and your stream isn't working. So if that's not if that's not red, your stream isn't going to work. Right, what are you streaming? Well, you're streaming everything that's in that program window up there. The program out monitor shows you what people are watching when they watch your live stream. But we also have some other outputs. And I want to show you how these work. Now, if we have a look at the other outputs, there are a couple that we get here. We've got the NDI output and we've got an HDMI output. So how does the HDMI work? Well, that's fairly simple. You can plug an HDMI cable into your iPad and now you can get a monitor feed out. With NDI, you've actually got to turn NDI on actually because it's a network thing. You don't want to use so many resources if you don't want it. So turn NDI on. Now, I'm going to show you how the NDI works. But before we do that, I'm just going to superimpose those graphics again. So I'm just going to tap the graphics button. Now, let's go and have a look at an NDI device. I'm just going to use an off-the-shelf device here. This is an Atomos Shogun. And I'm going to use this to pick up the NDI feed so I can look at it. And you'll notice that it's that program out feed. Now, don't forget, we are also streaming. So if I go to YouTube, it'll look like this. Again, that program out feed. But I don't have to have program out on the NDI. So if I look at the little menu, it tells me that I'm using program out. But if I tap on this, I can actually change what that source is. So for example, I could say, instead of sending program, I'm going to send bars. Now, when I tap on that, my NDI feed is getting bars. Now, you might not think that's the best thing to transmit. I mean, maybe it's great, but we can set something more interesting. And what I'm going to do now is actually find what is called program clean. And you'll see why I'm going to do this in a minute. There we go. It's pretty much the same as you've got on the stream, but there's a subtle difference. The stream has got the graphics superimposed. The clean feed, however, doesn't. which means my NDI monitor, although it's exactly the same as the stream, it just doesn't have the graphics. So your NDI monitor could be in your venue. This might be on stage. You might have a big screen on stage showing the audience what's going out, but you might have graphics on there going like and subscribe. Well, that's not particularly useful for a live audience. You don't want them getting out their phones in the middle of it. So maybe you don't want to have the graphics in the venue, but you do want to have the graphics online. Now, we actually have another set of outputs, which is the HDMI output. And again, this can feed into a TV or something like that, anything with HDMI on it. It also works with AirPlay. If you've got enough network bandwidth, you can AirPlay it. And actually, I quite often sit on the sofa and just AirPlay it to my telly. It's quite fun. And this works in exactly the same way. So I can tap on this and I can select a different output. Let's say this monitor was actually screwed in the ticket office of my venue. Or what I could do is I could say, well, I don't want program. Actually, at the beginning of the show, I'm going to want a still image that I've stored in one of my image players. And that just shows everybody as they're coming in what show they're going to see. Or maybe actually I haven't got that at all. Maybe the monitor is on my desk and actually what I want to do is see a bigger view of the multi-view. So I can do that. So it's really powerful. So there we go. That is Mavis Studio. We've seen how we bring sources in, how we can bring in graphics, web signals, how we can do sound, and how we can then get it out into those multiple outputs. And it's really flexible. Mavis Studio is available on the App Store. It's a free download, so you can give it a go. Thank you very much for watching. Well, that was one take. Pretty good.